welcome to another episode of The Restaurateur. I'm your host, JD. If you're new to this channel, please consider subscribing or giving us a follow, depending on where you're watching or listening to this from. So you'll stay up to date with the latest business discussions that we have here that could actually help you run your business or live your life in general. We entered the restaurant scene 9 years ago when brick and mortar stores was like the best way to do business at the time. Most business opportunities were found in people's interest in dining out and going out to explore things personally. Meanwhile, the current situation that this world is in presents a business opportunity at a different light. Now, food businesses are encouraged to fulfill or satisfy people's cravings remotely. Compared to putting up your own physical shop, it's really easy nowadays to sell on the internet. You can do so by having a simple social media profile. In the same way that we were challenged to set our brand apart from other people who were putting up their restaurants, newbies in the food industry nowadays, with no exception to those people who are competing online, will also have to come up with really unique ways to set their brands apart from their other competitors. Now, figuring out that part was one of the hardest things to do in the beginning years of our restaurateur life, but as we grew wiser, we can actually safely say right now that it all needs a good strategy for you to achieve it. And a good strategy is composed of really clever tactics that you can use to carve your own winning path. Today, let me briefly discuss with you guys some tactics that I personally use and which you can also use to make your own strategy that can help you elevate your brand's presence in social media or any other online platform. Before we move on to the first tactic that I want to discuss, I just want to tell you guys ahead that I'll be discussing a few things that will be elementary for some of you who are watching, but I'll discuss them anyway for the beginning restaurateurs, and then we'll move along to topics that are less obvious but can actually change the game in your favor. Tactic number 1. Come up with a meaningful brand name. It's a simple tactic that's often overlooked by beginning restaurateurs, but it will go a long way if you don't skimp on this step. Remember, you have the opportunity now to create something that your patrons can remember you by. So don't just settle for something catchy but lacks substance. While a lot of people try to come up with things that are catchy or witty or funny, I believe it gives a more lasting impression to your consumers if your brand name is centered on the experience that is the core of your business. A good case study of this is the way we came up with our brand name for our steakhouse called Steak Unlimited. We could have gone with something really funny or catchy that could get people's attention, but we stopped for a while and looked at the bigger picture. If we put up a steakhouse, we have to be the authority on it. Hence, we placed the word unlimited beside steak to build a strong image of being a restaurant dedicated to the craft of steaks. Tactic number 2. A logo that resonates with your target audience. A logo's design is often a product of subjective decision making, and the subjective nature of its development means it will never feel the same for everybody. What's good for you might not look good for the consumers that you're trying to talk to. This is the very reason why you have to take your logo making process away from satisfying your own subjective taste. Better yet, you have to lead your logo making decisions towards satisfying your customers' artistic perception or appreciation levels. This goes without saying that you have to pay attention to the areas of behaviors and the little quirks that your audience might have that may affect their perception of an image. Take for example this logo that we have for our pizza parlor that we named Jim Hopper's Pizza Point. The whole concept of the pizza parlor is to have a 50s to 70s diner vibe in it. So we decided to create a logo that could attract both demographics, young and old. We stuck with fonts that were reminiscent of 50s and 70s diners and colored them in a way that could be attractive to the younger audience. We even decided to place the letters J and the H inside a pizza triangle that looks connected to one of the letters. It just created a really cool vibe that even if you just had the JH and that pizza triangle over there, you'd recognize the brand from afar. And again, the color and the fonts that we played around in making this logo and actually used in the final output played a really huge role in attracting the younger audience and the older audience as well. Tactic number 3. Get good in foodtography. Good food photos have always been a major game changer when attracting customers to try your product. Sad to say, a lot of entrepreneurs think that food photos are just good for that. Some don't even care if the shot is well lit or well composed, just as long as they have something to post on social media about the food, they're good with it. At least for our companies, we believe that food photos should also bring about different range of emotions from your customers aside from the feeling of hunger. Inspirations for really good food photos can actually be found in the most unlikely things that surround your food. It's in the story of who made it, what's in it, who's eating it, or who's holding it in the photo. Believe me, if you find a way to tell a story with that food photo, aside from just making it look like it's really, really good to eat, it will give it more depth and more meaning for your consumers, and it will really look more than just a cliche of a really good food photo that everybody else is posting. It takes a lot of conceptualizing to come up with really good shots that tell stories, but if you find the right arrangement, or even if you find a photo that you want to copy on the internet, a shot that you can replicate, you're on your way to telling visual stories with your food photos, even with just your phone's camera, which is the very same way we do our food photo shoots for our restaurants 98% of the time. Now, consider this flat lay photo that we did for our restaurant Cucina Ilocana. We could have just shot the food from up top without the hands serving them and just arranged them beautifully on the table. But the hands that are on the act of serving the food just gives it a little more action and life, and it just gives a more human touch with the hands there compared to when we just shoot the food without the hands. Plus, our brand speaks of really good hospitality, so it's a really nice touch to have some hands serving the food just like they would serve you in store when you're there. So aside from seeing photos of really delicious food that can make you hungry, our aim in this photo was to also make you feel that we are here to serve you these good food with a high level of hospitality. Tactic number 4. Put the behind the scenes on the front page. Having your own brick and mortar store allows your customers to experience your brand beyond the food. They get to experience your staff's sincere service firsthand, and on occasions, they even get to take a sneak peek of the kitchen and see the action that's going on over there. It's these genuine nuances of human interaction that gives more value to the visit of the customer that gets them excited for another one the next time. Sadly, the online space and the current pandemic don't really allow for such experience to happen anymore, at least during these times. But it's not impossible to show your consumers the realness of your brand through the internet. So, aside from taking a set of good photos, take some candid shot of your team during work, be it during their prepping or their cleaning or their serving. Capture those real moments beautifully and post them on social media so your customers can see and understand who the people are behind the food that they're eating. You can even have some photo sessions where you ask them to dress nicely and then pose like really well, and take a group photo to introduce the team who's working for the day. Whichever way you go with, just don't forget to include the men and the women of your team and put them on the front page. This will allow your customers to see your company in a different way because they see behind the scenes, and they will then understand who the people are working behind their food and the values that they hold. If you manage to pull this off correctly, you would have given your brand a more human touch, not just some other store that's selling something online. And trust me, people just love that human connection that they get with brands. So don't forget to consider this tactic when creating strategies for your marketing. Now, I want to show you guys a really good photo that we posted for a client on social media management. Their store is called The Red Corner, and they specialize on hamburgers. But they don't just take pride on the delicious burgers that they're serving, they also want people to know that they also love what they're doing, and that service is at the core of their business. So we use this photo of these two lovely ladies serving the burgers to customers with a smile. Of course, in the photo, you get a really good glimpse of the burgers that they're serving, what size they are, and what comes with the burger. But then you also see that behind that burger are two ladies that are happily serving their customers. And that just gives a feeling of happiness or the human touch that people are looking for when interacting with brands, especially online. Moving on to tactic number 5. Don't just sell a product. I've seen this way too much being done on social media. Someone has a product to sell and they just go aggressively post photos of it and create captions that are just focused on telling people that they have something for sale. Now, I don't have anything against it, it's just how some sellers are online. But if you're aiming to be known more than just a seller, if you want to be a trusted source of good food and a good online experience, you have to step up and give your selling page, your website, or whatever platform you're in more depth and personality. Start by using the online space as a platform where you can tell your brand story, not just a place where you can sell online to people. Have a few posts where you don't really appear as if you just want their attention now and later their money. Take a few steps back from posting selling announcements and take your time to let out some genuine moments about you that could actually build your consumers' trust by the way you post photos, create captions, respond to messages, or comment back. Choice of words and photographs is really important. It's critical because it's the only way that people can assess you online before they can even engage with you for an experience. So, if you know in your heart that you want to become a formal brand someday, start acting like one today. Now let me break down for you guys a post that we use for our second steak brand called CAVINGS Steakside. So as you can see on this post, we have some small photos of the food, and on the bigger frame, we have a photo of the crew working together. And if you read the caption well enough, you could actually see that we're not trying to sell something to people. We're just telling our audience what it takes to serve their good food in CAVINGS Steakside. And in the post, we admit that it takes hard work and dedication to satisfy our customers. The food photos are there to attract people's attention to bring about hunger, but the photo of the team in the bigger frame and the way we talk about hard work and dedication related to satisfying the meat lovers from our audiences gives our brand a more human touch. And people won't really think about us as just some online presence that's selling them something because we have stories to tell aside from the products. And I can't stress this enough, humans as we are, we always love to hear stories about greatness and people dedicating their efforts to the crafts that they love. And it's no different for us in the restaurant industry. We have to let our stories behind the food, behind our doors, out in the open so people can know us and trust us more. If you haven't guessed it by now with the tactics that I've shared with you, the main strategy that we drive our companies with is creating a more genuine relationship with our audience through what we post, how we talk on social media, and what photos we upload for people to see. Good stories put in the front page of different brands will give the customers that human touch that they long for aside from the cravings that you're trying to get from them. So go ahead and try these tactics out so you can come up with a strategy that can actually set your brand apart from your competitors. Revealing some realness in your posts creates your brand's image. And doing so will actually let your fans see you more than just a person behind a computer trying to sell them something. Just remember to be consistent with your message and your imaging all throughout the platforms that you're using for your brand. This is the very same strategy that we've been using for years in our own brick and mortar stores, and we haven't really changed a thing now that we're transitioning our operations online. Rather than simply shouting out to the world that you have a product for sale, try sharing the bits and pieces of the journey that you went through just to serve your customers that food or that product. Now, in the beginning, it might not seem really useful and it might not look much, but in the eyes of your customers later on, it will have added value to your service, your product, and the whole experience that they have with your brand. This has been another session of The Restaurateur. We hope you learned something from those 5 tactics that you can put on a strategy to make your brand stronger and better among all the competitors. It's going to be a tough world out there now that people are shifting online, but if you follow these tips, you're on your way to success. We hope to see you at the top. Thank you, and we'll catch you on the next episode.